Fernando Alonso. You may know him as the rookie Formula 1 driver who's been racing since 2001. But seriously, you may know him as the 44-year-old Formula 1 driver who currently races for Aston Martin Aramco Formula 1 team, with Lance Stroll as his teammate. 32 wins, 22 pole positions, 106 podiums and 2 championships. Now these are successes that only a minuscule amount of people in Formula 1 have ever been able to achieve. But you may say, there are people who have won more. But unlike a lot of Formula 1 drivers, Alonso has had a lot of successes in mediums like GT1 racing and even Dakar. So let's take a deep dive in Alonso's career. In 2025, Alonso was involved in tractor racing. He was involved in Formula 1 with the goddamn tractor. Before the start of 2025, many people predicted that this might be one of the most close F1 seasons of late because this was the end of the regulation cycle, so teams would have to deliver and make competitive cars. Well, Aston clearly did not get the memo. They brought a spoon to a gunfight. In the first race of the season, the Astons qualified 12th and 13th, and in the race, Alonso DNF'd by hitting gravel and losing control. Then in the following races, he wasn't able to reach points until Spain. During this time, luck and Alonso were like water and oil. They were not coming together. As the season went on for Aston, for once in F1, they were able to get upgrades that actually made their car faster, which meant that Alonso was able to score a whole lot of points towards the end of the season. But let's rewind to the start and see what makes Alonso so special. Alonso started kart racing at the age of 3, which is not allowed anymore, but this was the mythical 80s. Over his karting years, he was able to get many titles, including regional, national, and continental titles. He then made his way to open-wheel racing at the age of 17. In 2001, Alonso signed with Minardi, his first race being in Australia at Albert Park. On the surface, 2001 would be an absolute dud season, not being able to reach points once. However, throughout the year, Alonso was able to get that Minardi in positions past its potential. In 2002, Alonso opted to switch out his full-time F1 seat and instead switched to Renault as a reserve driver and testing driver. This happened because Renault team principal Flavio Briatore started noticing the young Spaniard's talents and wanted him for the 2003 season to replace one Jenson Button. More on Flavio Briatore later in the video because this man is quite the figure in F1. Anyway, this would mark the start of a legendary racing pairing, well, for 3 years at least. In 2003, Alonso's season would start blazing. He finally got his first points in F1 in the first race of the season in Australia. And just in the next race, he was able to get on the podium in Malaysia, where he got pole position, becoming the youngest pole sitter in the history of the sport at the time. Then the next race, he would get a podium again. He would have to wait until Hungary to be able to stand on the top step of the podium, becoming the youngest race winner at the time. 2004 would see Alonso get a few podiums, but no race win. Then came 2005. I think it hit me on the head like in It's 2005. Let's set the context. Michael Schumacher had been dominating the sport and just had set the record of 5 world championships in a row. 2005 arrived and Renault and Alonso were unstoppable, winning 7 Grand Prix and sealing the title in Brazil 2 races before the season ended. At the time, he became the youngest F1 world champion and still remains the only one from Spain. 20 years on from his first championship, McLaren test driver Pedro de la Rosa commented saying that the McLaren believed Kimi was going to win the title because they believed they had the better package, but as the season unfolded, they didn't expect Alonso to be so consistent. In the final race, Renault was able to win the Constructors' Championship, with Alonso taking a race win at the final race of the season. Then came 2006. Michael Schumacher had announced his retirement for Formula 1, with 2006 being his final season, and he wanted to go out with a bang, with Alonso having been in the top 2 in every race until round 10 in the United States, where he took 5th. Alonso would win his second title over second place Michael Schumacher in a legendary season. He became the youngest 2-time champion at the time, but 2006 would end in a shock. Alonso had decided to jump ship over to McLaren for the 2007 season alongside rookie Lewis Hamilton. But during the first stint at Renault, he was able to have some insane successes, some incredible overtakes, Imola, and quite possibly one of the most incredible statements at Suzuka. And that's the old me, the way I'm sitting nowadays, money stayed 9 ways. 2007 would mark one of the most legendary championship fights, with Raikkonen taking the championship from both Hamilton and Alonso by 1 point. Both drivers finished the season on 109 points. I think 2007 will need the video on itself, but yes, technically Alonso got beat by a rookie, but there are a lot more factors which take a lot more time to talk about. But this season does definitely leave a more negative mark on Alonso's legacy, but he was able to rack up 4 race wins. But during the 2007 season, an FIA investigation into McLaren revealed that they had sent someone into Maranello to see what Ferrari was building. So in 2007, there were technically 4 Ferraris on the grid, and McLaren still lost. This is the perfect example of why you don't copy homework. This resulted in McLaren being disqualified from the F1 Championship for 2007, meaning even though they won by points, they weren't included, and this scandal would be called Spygate. So Alonso was part of one of the biggest F1 scandals in history, but surely that's the worst of it. Then comes 2008. Alonso left McLaren to return to Renault. In 2008, at the Singapore Grand Prix, Renault would be able to win their first Grand Prix win of the season. In 2008, at the Singapore Grand Prix, Renault would be able to win their first GP win of the season if a safety car came out. And do you remember Flavio Briatore from earlier? Well, this man is kind of known for some sketchy stuff, and he's known to be quite a controversial figure. Known as the Playboy of F1, there have been many legal issues he's had to face, some of which even give him jail time. But of course, he fled the country. This race would be one of the most controversial races. And trust me, there's been some notable ones. Renault told their second driver, Nelson Piquet Jr., to purposefully crash. And so it brought a safety car, and Alonso was able to win the race. Perfect plan, right? Well, in 2009, Nelson Piquet Jr. ended up having beef with Renault and leaked the files. Briatore got fired and banned from Formula 1 activities for the rest of his life, and that clearly worked. And Alonso was in the center of all of this. Not that he did it, but he just ended up there. And if you think about it, if this situation had gone down any worse, this could have been the end of the road for Alonso in F1. So this would be known as the Crashgate scandal. And the ironic thing is, they went through all of this work to technically not win in legal ways. But in the following race in Japan, Alonso ended up winning on merit. So Alonso survived 2 gates in 2 years. So surely it couldn't get any worse. Until you look at what team he joins after. In 2010, Alonso jumped ship to Ferrari, which, just like any Ferrari experience, is pure pain. In 2010, there was a 4-way title fight, and Sebastian Vettel won by 4 points over Alonso. And guess why? He couldn't get past a Renault. 2011 came and went with Ferrari nowhere near Red Bull and Vettel, but still being able to win at Silverstone and getting 10 podiums. And by the way, Felipe Massa, who nearly won the title in 2008, scored no podiums throughout the year with Alonso. In 2012, Alonso was in another title fight with Vettel and lost the championship again, by only 3 points in Interlagos. And then we got one of the most gut-wrenching moments in F1 history. However, the 2012 Ferrari is often found to be the worst car that has ever challenged for the title. And the fact that Alonso nearly got his borderline tractor to a championship speaks volumes. And also look at the grid in 2012. 2013 again was dominated by Vettel and Red Bull, and Alonso's final F1 win, for now, would take place in the Spanish Grand Prix. There's a reason I say for now, because in Aston Martin, I trust to get Alonso's third in 2026. Anyway, 2014 came with the new hybrid cars, and Ferrari made the F14T, a car that both understeered and oversteered. I mean, how do you manage to build a car like that? But this man still got 2 podiums in one of the hardest cars to drive, compared to Kimi Räikkönen's 0. This is a standout, getting 2 podiums in probably one of the most shit-designed F1 cars. Alonso would leave Ferrari at the end of 2014. Alonso moves back to McLaren. I mean, I already said it once, but going back to another X again? Anyway, in hindsight, this could have been a great move for Alonso. Honda was back with McLaren, and these two have built some pretty cool machinery together. But let's just say the 2015 to 2018 McLaren were closer to wheelbarrows than they were to the top teams. And reliability was so bad and the performance so bad as well, that we ended up with one of the greatest selection of radio messages in Formula 1 history. Now this move is considered by many to be one of the worst moves and one that may have destroyed Alonso's career. But again, Alonso took these tractors to places where they shouldn't be. There are multiple races where this man was in dead last, ended up in P7 or P8 in the race, and nearly got a podium in Singapore once, until this happened. Then in 2018, Alonso announced retirement for Formula 1. Now you may think that's it, that's Alonso's racing career, but you would be wrong. Alonso took the jump over to closed wheel racing and started racing with Toyota at WEC. You may think going from Formula 1 to GT1 classes racing is as easy as switching on light, but you may be wrong. Alonso stated in an interview that there was a lot he had to learn from his experienced teammates to be able to learn what and how to do things. Alonso was able to win the famed 24 Hours of Le Mans twice. He also became a world champion with Toyota and WEC, and he's already raced in the legendary Indy 500 3 times, 2017, 2018, 2019. He was so close to winning, but he still hasn't been able to achieve it. But he showed the high promise and was quite competitive. And you gotta remember, he barely had any time in Indy cars. Also, the reason he wasn't able to win one of them was because the McLaren blew up. So he thought, why not also go and do the grueling Dakar race? He did it in a Toyota Hilux and was able to even earn a podium. This is quite an incredible feat, as four-wheel drive racing is completely different from F1 and even GT1 racing. In 2021, Alonso came back to F1 with Alpine, which is the rebranded Renault. The season went well, with many not expecting Alonso to be able to perform as well as he did, even getting his first podium since 2014 in the Qatar Grand Prix. However, reliability did plague them through the season. Then came 2022, where either the Alpine was trying to kill Alonso or his own goddamn teammate was trying to take him out. However, the 2022 Alpine was the best of the midfield, taking a P4 in the championship. And he did also manage a P2 in quali in Canada, until the race happened and he kept going backwards because of the horrific pace of the Alpine. However, Alonso decided that he ain't want to be involved in Alpine, which is a good move. So he jumped ship to Aston Martin. And this might be the first time Alonso's done a good career move in like 2 decades.
I think it hit me on
in 2023, for the first half of the season, the Aston was close to the second quickest car on the grid, and Alonso capitalized on it, getting 6 podiums in the first 8 Grand Prix races of the season, and a total of 8 by the time the season ended. However, with Aston bringing upgrades which made the car slower, the Aston wasn't as competitive as it was at the start of the season. 2024 and 2025 were quite mundane and not anything stand-up, but a few good moments of bad luck. Which brings us on to 2026, where it could be that season that Alonso takes his 3rd World Drivers' Championship. I guess time is going to tell us what happens. So is Alonso the greatest of all time? Well, maybe, because this man has never once done worse than what his car can offer. He's always at the limit of his car, or well, most of the time exceeding the limits. Also, Fernando's not at all become slower through his 23 years of racing, which is a feat no one else has done. And this theory of if the 2015 crash and preseason testing stopped his aging, we will never know. Sure, Alonso lacks the raw numbers of other F1 drivers who are considered in the GOAT conversation, but I do think that Alonso should be talked about more when talking about the best drivers in Formula 1, because his adaptability and pure driving school is among the highest that has ever been seen. And with other championship drivers not opting for other racing mediums, Alonso, in my eyes, is one of the greatest racing drivers of all time.